I'm Jack Patrick Lewis, state representative for the majority of South Framingham, some of North Framingham, and the entire town of Ashland. On this program, we talk with elected officials, community leaders, and area activists about the current political landscape in Framingham and the future of this town that many of us call home. On today's program, I am joined by two members of the Charter Commission who are in favor of Framingham adopting a city form of government. First, we have Valerie Mulvey, who has served on the Board of Selectmen and as our interim town manager. She is joined by Dennis Cardiff, who is also a former Framingham selectman. On April 4th, the residents of Framingham will decide whether or not to support the charter recommendation to become a city. With very little time to talk and just over a month before the election, let's just jump right in with the first question. Have you both always been in favor of Framingham becoming a city, or is there something about this time and place that has led you to this conclusion? Valerie, do you want to go first?
Yes, I have lived here for 42 years, and every time it's been on the ballot, I have voted yes for a city.
Okay.
Probably because I grew up in the city of Waltham, and I was very aware throughout my youth that my parents knew who their ward council was. They actually knew who all 6 at-large councilors were, and they could pick up the phone, and they knew who to call if there was any situation that concerned them in the neighborhood or in the town, city of Waltham in general. So that's how I grew up, and I know that was important to them and to my family in Waltham, that they knew who the rep was, they knew how to call the person and get things done.
Okay. How about you, Dennis?
I, myself, am a lifelong resident of Framingham, born and raised, went through the public school system, grew up on the south side of Framingham in the Winthrop Street neighborhood, Memorial School area. I have supported a city form of government for the last 20 years. I was a member of the Charter Commission back in the early 90s, in which we made a recommendation to the town to change to a city form of government, and it was rejected by the voters. Since then, I have worked diligently to reconsider the aspect of a city form of government for Framingham, because I believe it would be a more effective form, an efficient form to govern a community of this size. So, yes, I am in favor of a city and have been all my political career for the most part.
May I add something?
Of course.
I also think it's important to know how people vote. And in the cities, you always know each week or every other week just how your council is voting on that issue. And I personally like that kind of accountability, and I like that knowledge.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as two people who have long supported the city form of government, today you're speaking to people that maybe voted against a charter in the past, but in order for this charter to pass, likely some of those people are going to have to vote for this charter that didn't vote for the last charter. And so what can you say to people who voted for the previous charter or voted against the previous charter that you were in favor of? What is it different about this charter this time around that would lead them to be that small minority of people that need to change their mind if Framingham is to become a city?
Well, I think this charter has developed into a much more detailed charter than the previous charter we had in the 90s. This charter takes and puts together the best and most efficient aspects of a charter, a city charter, from several communities, including Braintree, who just went to a city form of government, Greenfield, Weymouth. So we looked at several charters. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This is, we have put together a charter that we believe will meet the needs of Framingham as it continues to grow and has grown. So I think the charter is much different than the previous charter. It has much more detail in it. It addresses many more aspects that are concerns of the community and of the residents of the community, in that, for example, the budgeting process, the financial disclosures for elections, the strength or the weakness of the mayor, and the size and so on of the council. So it addresses all of those items in total. And I think we've created a document that is, while it's probably not going to be completely foolproof, it's a great start. And I think we've also established a timeline of 5 years to review it. So if there are things that we missed in this charter, they can be reviewed and accommodated in a 5-year review.
Excellent.
It also has an excellent, very comprehensive section on conflict of interest, which doesn't currently exist in Framingham.
That's correct.
Excellent. So one of the leading arguments against this charter is that it's going to take power and put it in the hands of too few people, and it's also going to further make it difficult for communities within the community of Framingham, especially in South Framingham, to have a fair and balanced voice in the process. And so while I've had a chance to hear from people on both sides of this issue, I'd love to hear from you more, to people at home still making up their minds, how you respond to the accusation that too few power in the hands of a few and too much power in the hands of a minority of people who don't represent the true diversity that is Framingham.
There actually doesn't exist equal representation in Framingham at the moment. All 4 selectmen are from precincts 1 and 4. All school committee members are north of Route 9. On the south side, precincts 16, 17, and 18 have 21 vacancies out of 36 available seats. That's 58% vacancy rate in 3 south side precincts. Currently, we have 33 vacancies townwide. Last year, we had 67 blanks on the ballot for town meeting. So I personally don't accept that we have equal representation. That's why I'm supporting this charter, to have 9 districts for 9 school committee members, 9 districts for 9 counselors. That's equal representation. Every district gets their own go-to person. They know the name, they know how to reach them. I would imagine that if you were to go into any precinct of the 18 in Framingham right now and walk up and down the streets, people wouldn't be able to name their town meeting members for you. Just my perception of it, but I've tried it and it hasn't worked where I've asked.
I've knocked on many of their doors, so they may be able to name my name now.
Thank you.
But
Thank
as a
you,
state rep, it's a
Representative
different level there. Dennis, did you have anything to?
I think part of the concern, because they're saying that we're putting more power in the hands of a mayor. Well, in fact, we're putting less power in the hands of the mayor than the current town manager exists. We have a very, very powerful town manager at present. Every municipal employee is legally appointed by the town manager, as would be by the mayor, by the way, save 4 positions that are appointed personally by the mayor, such as the chief financial officer, the city council, and a couple of other positions that go. The town manager right now can appoint his neighbor as a public works director if he so chose, and the mayor could make the same appointment, naturally, but would have to be approved by the council, whereas the manager would not be approved. So I think the claim that we're putting too much power in the hands of too few is not a valid claim. Secondly, town meeting has power in the hands of very few and is being run by a silent group of folks within town meeting. They have an inordinate amount of vacancies. 12 people representing a district is not representation when there's 9 vacancies in a district. If you went out and asked folks who their representatives were in a district, you would find that they don't know who they are. It's very difficult to find, to know 12 different folks in your precinct that are supposedly representing your interests at town meeting, which doesn't seem to happen. So I believe, and we believe as a charter group, as a commission, that we've taken the neighborhood approach. We're trying to create neighborhoods that are vibrant and consistent with a neighborhood establishment of a neighborhood, so that the folks from Knobscot will deal with their representative and will deal with the issues in the Knobscot area, while the folks on the south side of town will have equal representation in the form of one district councilor. And it's important to note that we have suggested that every single district has a district representative that is voted from their district, not townwide. In addition to that, we have added 2 at-large district councilors, at-large councilors, so that we can continue to process future mayors in hope that, running at large is totally different than running in a district. So I think for those reasons, the fact that folks are saying we've put too much power in too little hands is just doesn't carry water.
Some have asked why take the 18 precincts we have and have 9, take the 18 and combined 2 precincts together, so to have 9 area councilors and then 2 at large. Why not 1 councilor per precinct and then have a couple at large?
We talked about that, and originally we had 13 members on the council, and then it begins to get a little bit dicey when you're running an election where 4 people could come from the same precinct and actually take the majority of the council and vote in that manner. So we determined that And one of the other reasons we didn't like the 18 is because our neighbors to the east, Newton, had a very large council in the form of a Board of Aldermen. And they are currently in the process of reducing that because they found it inefficient and not manageable to support the government actions they needed to support. So we decided that in order to make neighborhoods, now whether those neighborhoods are exactly perfect, they're probably not, but we weren't able to do a restructuring under this charter. That will come when there's a new census done in, what?
2020?
2020. They can, again, restructure those neighborhoods so that they actually fit a better neighborhood concept. But the concept was combine 2 precincts to make a neighborhood, and then each representative is representing about 7,000 or so folks, give or take.
And we also studied comparable cities and even towns in Massachusetts, and
Right.
they came, 9 was pretty much the average. There were a few larger, like Waltham, like Newton.
So we settled on 11, you know, and it can be changed. It's not set in stone.
Are there other cities in the Commonwealth that have a similar model that Framingham is adopting or adapting to the charter, to other towns that have mayors and
The
city
majority have
councilors?
9.
Okay.
Right.
Some have 11.
Correct.
And Newton currently has 24, I believe,
Okay.
which they're reducing.
Attempting to reduce to 11 or
They're
13.
they're reviewing their charter now, and they're going through that year-long process of changing, making changes. And one of the recommendations is to go down to, I think, 9.
Okay.
Oh, is it 9?
9.
One of the other arguments that's made is that a vote for charter is a vote for more development in Framingham. It's a vote for more high-rise apartments. It's a vote for more children in our schools. Can you respond to this argument that a vote for the charter, a vote for city, would be a vote for more unchecked development?
You wanna
Dennis maybe
start?
can respond better
Okay.
than I, but I don't see that they go hand in hand. I don't see the
Well-
parallel, but go ahead, Mr. Businessman.
Framingham right now needs development.
True.
It's a very complex formula because we have what they call a split tax rate in Framingham. And our commercial rate in the last few years buckled right up against the highest level it could be, and it caused some hardship on the residential tax rate. Development in downtown Framingham is absolutely necessary, and in fact is happening now, whether we know it or not. It's the town manager is responsible for creating development down there now, and he's actually bringing 2 projects before town meeting tomorrow night for TIFs. Our problem with that is there's no master planning. There's no large plan that says, okay, in downtown Framingham, we're going to have this defined development. No one has defined the development that's going to take place in downtown Framingham and the development that's needed in downtown Framingham and the development that's needed in Knobscott and the development that's needed at Mount Wade. If folks want to sit back and say the city is going to bring too much development, I would suggest that the town is unable to develop right now, and we have this blight that exists around town in several different districts, and we're not addressing it.
You're mostly talking about business development. Could you also talk a little bit about residential development?
Well, there has to be a mix of residential and business development, or we have no growth, and we have a stagnant tax situation. So, yes, there is both. There will be both development, but that will be whether we are a city or a town. Their argument about development is just not valid, because we currently have projects going on Pleasant Street with hundreds and hundreds of homes being developed.
And Millwood as well,
Millwood
right,
just
Dennis?
went with
Yes.
town meeting toast to make that a development as well for residential.
And Old Palm Path.
And Old Palm Path. So I think what we do have to look at, I believe, in development is how we're going to develop those areas. Are we going to provide residential access in downtown Framingham as well as retail space that will bring back the community? It's my opinion and my feeling that we're coming back to downtowns. We're bringing our social and economic function back into small downtown communities, and you can see it all around us. Natick has done fabulous with their downtown.
Yes.
And it all centers around the transportation district, which Framingham took 13 years to consider, and now is part of that consideration. And they have developed some zoning that will change the requirements in downtown Framingham with regards to the number of parking spaces that are required for multi-bedroom residential units. But I think you're going to see a great, big, beautiful development that takes place in downtown Framingham when we can come up with a master plan that looks at the entire district and provides TIFs necessary to do those projects, and brings in interested developers that will make Framingham a vibrant downtown again.
And I really do appreciate you both taking the time to answer these questions. What I see my role as being is to take the opponent's perspective and make sure that that they're channeled through me to give you an opportunity for folks listening to hear your own response. And so I'm doing my best to facilitate this conversation, leaving it largely to you to share an answer. But I appreciate you allowing me to channel those perspectives without taking it out on
And I'll
me.
add something to what Dennis said, if I may.
course.
I liked everything he had to say about development, and I'm hoping that's the kind of development that will follow from a change in government. But back in the very early 90s, 91, 92, I served in a group called Downtown Solutions. And we had wonderful ideas back then, and here it is, what, 26 years later. And
I won't do
wow.
the math if you don't.
I worked way back then with people like Boris Konyev and Joe Bradley and all these wonderful people, and we met every other week, and we're still waiting. So I'm hoping it's going to happen soon, because the downtown, we should look like places like Natick or Waltham, or just...
The other important aspect of this charter, I think, very important, is that we are involving the business community.
Yes.
The business community is no longer going to be isolated from our government. I am a member of the FBA, Framingham Business Association, which is a newly established organization in town. We've never had a business association. They're becoming more popular and more powerful. They meet monthly. They want to be part of government. They want to have some voice, some say in what goes on, and we need that in Framingham. We've turned our heads on business. And it's time to bring, they are residents just like us, and it's time to bring them to the table with us so that we can develop consistently, not half-wit going about development.
Which actually is a good transition to another concern that some have, that the Charter Commission, if we become a city, will require more money coming in to fund elections, and that businesses, especially outside businesses, will have more power and say in what historically have been very low threshold funded elections. Could you talk a little bit about response to the idea that money is going to flood into town and that these elections are going to price people out, and that normal people like you and me and others in town wouldn't be able to afford thinking of running for elected office? Are either of you willing?
Well, I can probably tackle it. There's no more money going to flow into town than flows in right now. First of all, elections the majority of elections will be less expensive than they are for running for the Board of Selectmen now, because you've got 9 folks running in a district. To run in a district of 2 precincts is going to be far less expensive and far less overhead needed to get to those folks. In fact, you could walk the streets and get to them. So I think the fact that they're saying it's going to be a lot more money, perhaps in the mayor races there will be more money. That's a function of how good the mayor can raise money and how good the mayor, the prospective mayor, will be able to get people together. I don't think it's going to be any different than you see now. I ran for selectman myself, and I raised some of the most money that was ever spent in a campaign back in the early 90s. So it's progressively getting more anyways, and politics has always been part of, money has always been part of politics. It's not, who are we trying to fool? And it's going to remain part of politics. We all know that. You didn't get elected without money. None of us get elected without money.
That is true.
It's part of the politics. I don't think it'll be any worse than it is now, or any better for that matter.
But to your point, it will be less expensive
It'll
for
be
a
less
councillor
expensive to
in
run
2
in a
precincts,
district
one
than it
district
is.
than the Board of Selectmen running for
Except for
18.
the at-large position.
The
Except for the
at-large
2 at-large,
positions will
yes.
be more
like the
expensive,
current
there's
selectmen.
but it'll be
That's
similar to
correct.
running for state rep or selectman or whatever you currently run
Correct.
for.
Excellent. As our time winds down, I did have a question about, so if the Charter Commission passes and we become a city, what will the average Framingham resident, what difference will they immediately be able to feel? Will it take a while before the average Framingham resident can feel that something's different in town with fewer people?
Most importantly, I think they'll know who their representation is.
There you go, just
I think
getting back to the...
That's the biggest thing that
Correct.
we have attempted to accomplish, is so that people in districts will know who their representatives are. They can turn to their representatives, and the representatives will know them. So they'll see a big difference there, because they will have true representation. With regards to the transition from the town form of government to the city form of government, that will take place from April 4th through November, at which point we will have we'll actually have a primary in September if needed for the mayor and council races and school committee.
So it'd be September. So we're voting March 4th. April 4th to become to approve the Charter Commission or not. In addition to, just for a clarification for everyone listening, in addition to voting for a Board of Selectmen and a school committee members, if the Charter Commission passes, September there will be potential primaries for
That's correct.
mayor.
In between April and September, there's transition information in the charter that it kind of explains how the town can continue to govern. The Board of Selectmen remains in charge. They can't do any real hard business, but they can do business as usual. And if they need to make decisions, they can make decisions, emergency in nature if they need, or any other way. But it is the Board of it's up to the Board of Selectmen in the interim. With that said, there'll be a primary and a final election in November, with the first mayor to take office in January of 2018. We chose the 10-month route. We worked our butts off to get it done, and we had 57 meetings and 11 public hearings or something like that.
Right around it,
and now we're continuing 9 more outreach meetings in the communities. Each district is going to have its own meeting. You know, we've done the job. We only ask that folks read the charter, or at least the majority report and the minority report, because they're both very specific as to what each side feels. And then make an informed decision. And if you still can't make an informed decision, reach out to the Charter Commission and find out exactly, get your questions answered, or come to one of our forums, which the first is tonight at the McAuliffe Library at 7 p.m. We do have a PowerPoint presentation that takes you through the charter to explain what's in it, and then there'll be a question and comment period after that.
And it's my hope that that if we should become a city and we have district councilors and people reach out with their neighborhood questions or issues, that it will make them more engaged in government, get them to be more part of things. And that's what I'm hoping to see, that people who aren't necessarily involved right now will become involved.
And I think it's great to hear people in favor and people opposed to the charter urging voters, residents of Framingham, to read the charter. And I can now say, you know, people on all sides of this issue have come back to just read the charter, read the majority and minority opinions, and reach out if you have any further questions. And so I think that's good homework for everyone to do.
Absolutely.
One thing I've definitely tried to do through this conversation with colleagues and friends on both sides of this issue is to remind us that even though we may be on different sides of this important question of Framingham's future, like nothing could be bigger for Framingham's future in this moment than deciding to become a city or not.
Correct.
And it's 2016. I'm on the listservs. I'm on Facebook. I see the conversations, and there are definitely solid camps. And what I like to remind people, and I know no one really needs to be reminded, is that people are opposing or in favor of the charter because they love Framingham.
Right.
And they love Framingham for a whole host of reasons. It's where I call home. It's where my kid goes to school. It's where I do my grocery shopping, and I'm honored to represent it at the State House. What I'd love to hear from the two of you, just in closing, is like, what is it about Framingham in particular that makes it the town that you want to live in, that you're advocating for? Just to remind all of us that while we're going to be arguing about Charter Commission today and potentially mayor races down the road or selectmen races, that we all love Framingham for a whole host of reasons. And I don't know, Valerie, you wouldn't mind having?
Well, I have always celebrated the diversity of Framingham. It's a wonderful place to raise a family. I raised my 4 children here. They all graduated with different skill sets from Framingham High School. They all went to their colleges of their first choice. The high school provided everything my children needed. And because of the diversity of this community, I believe my children can live anywhere and be comfortable and survive and be happy. We have wonderful amenities here, but to get back to diversity, we don't have any diversity on our elected and appointed boards, committees, and commissions. We simply don't. We don't reach out to the whole community. Several neighborhoods, several precincts are without that kind of representation on our elected and appointed boards. So that troubles me, and that's one of the reasons that I am in favor of changing the form of government. As far as Framingham itself, my goodness, we have Framingham State University, we have Mass Bay Community College, Metro West Medical Center, we have a History Center, Danforth Museum, Cushing Park, Callahan State Park, Larned's and Lake Washaycom and Lake Cochituate. We have a Boys and Girls Club and a YMCA. You look around, we have the headquarters of Staples and Genzyme and TJX, which was no small task when I was interim town manager in 2012. It took months of hard work and dedication for me as interim manager and my colleagues in town hall to bring that to town meeting to fruition in May for a TIF. And we were just hoping the whole time we'd get it passed because Marlborough was fighting to bring the headquarters to Marlborough. So I love Framingham for all the reasons I just stated. And I believe that Framingham will be even a better place to live and work and play and raise a family under the city form of government, which will reach out and embrace everybody.
Excellent. Dennis, do you want the last word? Same question?
Well, I think Framingham is a great place. It's the hub of Metro West. It's equidistant between two cities, Worcester and Boston. It's time we address the size and the efficiency of our government going forward. I think this proposed charter begins that process, if not tackles it completely. I'm a lifelong resident. I've worked in Framingham. I've been in politics in Framingham. I started on the Park Commission way back as a 22-year-old out of college. I moved from there to the school committee, and then to selectmen. And it's a growing process. And one thing that hasn't grown is the form of government. And while town meeting is a splendid form of government, unfortunately, I believe it has not met the needs of a community this size. And I think if we do meet those needs with a new and efficient form of government, you'll see this community turn around into one of the most vibrant in the Metro West because it is the hub between Boston and Worcester.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for taking the time out of your day to talk about this important issue. And everyone watching at home, thank you so much. Just a reminder that on April 4th, you have the opportunity to go vote and decide the future of Framingham. I urge you, as they said, to read the Charter Commission reports, majority and minority, read the charter, and reach out to both the majority and minority opinion providers if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.